Ladies and gentlemen, hello. We got Buck on the big screen. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames and messieurs, welcome to Meet the Blessed, a panel show of Orthodox Christian commentators, thinkers, and creators, and clergy, where we get together to discuss the intersection of Orthodox Christianity, politics, and culture. It's like press, but blessed. This week we have with us a fine selection of some of the finest minds I could think of, and we get together. Of course, we have Buck Johnson, the creator and host, humble narrator and host of the Counterflow podcast. Jim Jatras, author of I Try to Warn You. Of course, my co-host on the weekly show Then and Now, which you can get a hold of on Mironchucknow, and Jay Dyer, who I believe goes without no introductions needed with this panel. But gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. The whole concept of the show is a bit like Meet the Press, where we get to these gentlemen together to discuss politics, culture, anything that's been on their minds or anything that they've been covering on their own shows as of late. Buck, I'd like to start with you because you said that you have a rant already saved up. So please let the people know all about you, and then get right into what you want to discuss.
Do people still know about Meet the Press? That's a good.
It's
question.
still going.
Okay.
It's still
is
going.
it? Well, see, I didn't know that. I want to be.
Yeah.
Wasn't Pat Buchanan on there?
It's a bit of a boomer reference, but yeah.
It is that. Yeah, my favorite generation. My favorite one sitting on this panel with us. Buck Johnson, Counterflow podcast. And now I was asked by Dissident Media, who is the organization above my show that sort of puts it out, if you will. Can you do a Substack once a month where you write something, because we want to see you do that and not just interview people? And it's like when you lift weights and you have a weakness in your program and you're like, let me skip leg day because I'm better at these other things. And so writing was not my forte at this junction in my life, but I said, well, then if I'm not good at it, maybe I'll give it a shot. And I woke up one morning with this urge to write about something similar that you've sort of referenced, Jason, many times on your show, with this mushy Christianity sort of bubbling up under the surface. And I think the Charlie Kirk, some of that. And I came up with Hot Topic Christianity. I'm pretty sure that was my spiritual father, Father Turbo Qualls. Maybe I sent the whole thing to him and he gave me the blessing to put it out. And he didn't say, yeah, that was me. But I think it was him. And Hot Topic, after I released it, I thought, now I don't know if people get that reference because I come from the punk rock subculture, and we used to make fun of a store in the mall that was sort of corporate punk rock for the masses called Hot Topic. And after the Charlie Kirk assassination, the public execution, it impacted me. I'm a firefighter for 27 years, and even seeing that still sort of messed with me a bit. And then you sort of have this lull afterwards, and everyone's collecting their thoughts and their conspiracy theories, and you see that bounce all around, and rightfully so in a way, because they're not releasing any information that's very valid or pertinent. But then I see these people either that I follow on Twitter or that maybe show up somehow in my feed. And obviously after 2020, after the Biden administration, the culture started to swing right, as you sort of predicted, and many others did as well. And then you start seeing people sort of switch their tune. And then it became, oh my God, wake up, pray up. And these sort of like kind of bumper sticker Hot Topic slogans. And I was like, why does this bother me so bad? And I talked to people that I care about and trust in my spiritual life, basically. I don't want to name names, but like, why is this bothering me? Am I being judgmental? And there's something like off-putting about some of it. And I'm also not going to name names and the influencers, but we've all seen them. There's people jumping on bandwagons And I do think a net positive from this like massive growth, we start seeing, for one, they were saying Charlie's goal was to overcrowd heaven and things like that. Not my style of speaking about this sort of thing, but I get it. And then, oh my God, my church was full. And then it was also happening to Orthodox churches. After that, I've talked to a few priests, and they said people like myself and you, Jason, that came to the church during the COVID wave, they sort of call it. Now we're in like wave part 2, where something's happened, and that's great. And I do think I spoke with Father Peter Heers and Father Turbo on different episodes about right after the Charlie thing. These people, they're all many of them are young, and I think the good thing about Charlie Kirk influencing a massive amount of young people was that it's with the internet, the age of information, as our friend Adam Patrick says, there's no excuse to not keep digging for the truth. And thank God people like Jay are out there on the Alex Jones platform and his own platform, of course, and Jim and you, Jason, too. So I think that there's an instinct that people will have a small segment of them. There's always like a remnant, I suppose, like that keep finding and searching. But there's also been this point where there's like a stopping point on social media. It's like, I'm in the church, not the church. I'm in a church. I went to church. Pray up, bro. And some of that was bugging me a little bit. And I'm sort of still navigating how to not come across as judgmental and go, well, that's not a church, dude. There's like a plexiglass around the drum kit and stuff like this. And so I struggle with speaking out against that and trying to stay in my lane as a layman, basically in the Orthodox Church, and then trying to go, wait, but keep searching, because you're sort of in the mall version of Christianity. And I hope that you keep looking and not just stop here and go, man, did Charlie Kirk and what I saw on that film of him being assassinated, this really influenced me. And I'm going to my new mega church, and we are chanting and doing worship music. And something about it hurts for me to see some of these things. And so my point with the Hot Topic Christianity is a bit of a struggle between like, I don't want to be judgmental, and the prick online that's like, that's not right, like the all monitor. But I hope that I know they won't all, because that's just not how things work. But I hope that a decent segment of the people searching, that are motivated by what happened to Charlie Kirk and are finding Christ and sort of searching for truth, can at least start looking towards this direction.
Jim, any comments on that? Because we're waiting for Jay to get back.
No, not really. I just want to pick up a little bit on the whole Charlie Kirk thing, because obviously that had a big impact on a lot of people, and a lot of people on the right somehow sort of said, "Oh well, now this is our new, this is our bloody shirt." And I think we could talk a little bit later about where we're going with that. I'd rather get back to what Jay has to say first, and then talk about what my initial thoughts were before we get into the back and forth, if possible.
But I mean, Jim, because you're the elder here, the elder Jim Jatras. You've
Yes.
seen you've been in the church for the longest on this panel. You've probably seen a little bit of
Right.
the remissions and then these surges, right? From your perspective, is this? Oftentimes we hear this sort of corollary. This is sort of like almost the new Great Awakening, Great Awakening 2.0.
Right.
We've seen sort of revivals in the 70s and 80s. Of course, that was furloughed. Scandals in the church, especially the Protestant denominations in the United States. I guess this is sort of like we'll have to see, but I think initial fears or trepidation is that this is being sort of almost being set up for another version of that, where we have a massive influx, and it almost seems to be set up to fail in some ways.
Yeah, I don't know if I would look at it that way. I don't think we've ever seen an influx like this. I mean, all right, let me go ahead and drop a couple thoughts I had in mind. I sometimes think that Cleo, the muse of history, must have accidentally hit the fast forward button, because it seems a lot of things that are going on sort of in the framework of what Jay talks about the nexus between geopolitics and religion. Whereas, again, very few people are aware that religion doesn't exist in this kind of ethereal sphere all by itself, nothing to do with politics, and that every political agenda of any sort has got its thumb in it somewhere or other, for better or for worse. And and look at what things have been happening just in the last few weeks. You've got this ridiculous person being named the Archbishopess of Canterbury, and then the Nigerian church, which, by the way, is bigger than the English church in Anglicanism, breaking with it. You've got now in the Roman Catholic Church, even the most ridiculous pig-headed trad cats are admitting that Leo is another Francis. And it's plain as the nose on my face. You've got the gay parade coming into St. Peter. You've got all of his horrible appointments. He's blessing the ice block and and doing all that kind of stuff. You've got the statement now by the Italian bishops about welcoming. Well, I mean, it's just not even funny anymore. And what they're all reduced to now is my divorce, my contraception. I mean, that's all they've got left to try to hide in to avoid the obvious wreck. And I don't know, back to what you were asking about the question. Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot more Roman Catholics now, even more now than we were seeing under Francis, because I think a lot of them have given up hope that, the next Pope is going to come along and fix stuff. Now we're not free from this either. Later next month, I suppose near the end of the month, Leo and Bartholomew are supposed to get together in Nicaea to move along on their next step of having a common dating of Easter and Pascha, and the next step of concocting some new version of Florence, some new union. And what are we seeing in all of this? And not only the influx we're having into our church, but how many videos do you see out there now? Every Roman Catholic and Protestant out there saying, "Oh, that ortho thing over there, that's not for you. That's not Western. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain." It's gotten absurd now. And I love these things, because if you look at the comments, you see all these people saying, "Well, I don't know what this ortho thing is, but I better go check it out." So I think we're living in a moment in that regard. Meanwhile, on the geopolitical front, okay, war with Iran is coming again. That's not gone. His 12-day big beautiful war did not solve that, and that's happening at a time when more and more Americans, except for most diehard Christian, idiotized Christian Zionists, are finally seeing that we do not have the same God, we do not have the same faith as Judaism, as Islam, and anybody else. So you see that we're going to have war with Venezuela. The American empire is visibly failing at the same time that we're moving toward an internal crisis, both spiritually and not too distant future, financially, economically, and politically. It's all happening at the same time, and it's all connected. And so I think this moment when people are seeking refuge for something true that they can hold on to is in a way the precipitate of all these events that are tied together, all happening at the same time.
Jay? Unmute.
I was trying to find the unmute button. Yeah, I mean, I was glad to
I beat Buck to it. Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
I was trying to beat you guys to so you wouldn't say unmute, dude.
Yeah.
I think I was appreciative to be able to be on one of the last, so far as what we think is one of the last InfoWars broadcasts, to really encourage people to look at orthodoxy as a solution. And I tried to encourage Alex to make the move to go check out an Orthodox church, and he said, "I gotta stand up for 8 hours straight." So I don't know if he will, but you don't actually have to stand up for 8 hours. But I said more like 4, Alex, not 8. But yeah, I'm glad to see the surge. I remember, again, I'm not anywhere near Jim's cradle situation, but in 2016, 17, we had the first wave of guys that began to convert, and a lot of that was the Discord that we set up. And the Discord has produced quite a few fruits, I think, more than people would think. That early generation of guys, most of those guys are already married, having kids. Some of them are becoming deacons and priests, and some of them have already graduated from seminary in Jordanville and so forth. So there's been, as you said, waves of this. I never expected this was going to happen. I'm honored and thankful to the Lord to be a part of that. And I think we will see more and more waves of this. And as you pointed out, really Protestantism and Rome don't have a lot to offer. And even their open voices are kind of becoming more and more drowned out because they just keep spinning their wheels, because every time they try to do something, there's a massive issue, with the papacy or with, lesbian bishops or whatever. So it's becoming more and more difficult for people to defend those systems. And of course, we have our problems as well. But I think when people understand the decentralized nature of Orthodoxy, it's a little more amenable to what they're looking for. And I think also it's time to resuscitate the Discord, because it got up to about 12,000 people in there now, and I took time off from it. But I think young guys really need this, and it's time to really focus on helping young guys look in this direction. I've kind of shied away from that because I didn't really feel like I was that kind of a person to be a dude to point young guys in the right direction or whatever. But it's already happened, so it's too late. So time to do it. Time to continue to work, pushing young guys. There is another issue too, which Jamie and I've talked a lot about, and my priest as well. We don't know how to reach the young girls. We'll figure that out in one way. I think that came up at Ludwell. Eventually, as the guys convert, the girls will. But there still needs to be some means of trying to reach those people. But we got a big conference coming up. It's not as big as Ludwell, but it's we've already sold more tickets than we've sold at any event ever. And I think we're going to keep having more and more blowout Orthodox conferences that are just going to be excellent hubs that solve some of the problems. For example, one of the number one problems that comes up is guys and girls. Where do I meet a girl? Where do I meet a guy? Well, come to an Orthodox conference. That's one of your best bets, because if you don't see an Orthodox spouse potential at a local parish, you might have to go to a conference. So I apologize. We've been driving a lot. My mind's a little bit mush, but I'm rambly. But I think, this is, it's all divine providence. The timing is amazing for what's happening, and I think it's just going to keep exploding. I'm very excited. And as we've been saying, the joke I made a long time ago, I think I made this joke in 2017, the papacy is the best of the Orthodox apologists. So they're just going to keep sending them our way.
I'm going to that conference. Jay, if you
awesome,
want,
Buck. Good.
Do you want to talk about what it is? And because everyone's going to go, wait, what's he talking about?
Sorry. Yeah. If you go to my Twitter or my website, there's some links there. It's the Athens and Jerusalem conference, and it's going to be a focus on Orthodox philosophy of life. So it's not philosophy in some boring technical sense. It's the philosophy of life. Metropolitan Jonah will speak. Father Vladimir, my priest, will speak. He's very well attuned to the history of aesthetics. He's taught art at the Florence School of Art before. So he's great. And he goes into, imagine if Dan Brown wasn't faking gay and it was actually cool. That's what my priest does. Like, he goes into like really good symbolic deconstructions of artwork. And he's not faking gay. He's actually real and straight. So the decoding is top notch. And he's going to talk about that. I'll be talking about a derivation of what I talked about at Ludwell, something a little more precise and specific. I think my talk will be longer than the Ludwell talk. We got Father Deacon Dr. Ananias will be talking about Orthodox philosophy and epistemology. We've got my wife will be talking about the history of ancient paganism, making a return with the trans movement and whatnot. Dr. David Patrick Harry will be there. He will be speaking on his book, Orthodoxy and Transhumanism. So all of those areas will, I think, overlap very well. I'm not sure what Metropolitan Jonah is going to speak on, but it'll be relevant. And that is a 2-day conference, November 20th and 21st. And we're kind of almost at peak capacity. So there's probably not not that many more spots left. So if you do want to come, you better hurry.
I'll just take a break to mention to the chat.
What?
Georgia?
Are you going to post the talks online after the conference?
I don't know what their plan is. I do think Father Vladimir is recording it. He has a guy who's pretty good videographer, but I'm not sure what their plan is.
Okay.
Possibly.
Just briefly, just for the chat,
Sorry,
of course, it's okay. Send us your comments and questions or anything else you want me to read out. I will do so as a super chat or send it over on Streamlabs. Usually the best way of doing it, so it avoids the YouTube haircut. The other thing I would like to talk about, gentlemen, since we're talking about Christianity, it's Roman Catholics and Orthodoxy, coming together possibly. At least in conversations. What do you guys think about the about JD Vance visiting the meeting with his beatitude patriarch Theotokos the Third in Jerusalem? I'll share this. Hang on a second here.
Jason, I don't know if this is up to you, but you're really loud and Jim is really, really low for me, but I don't know if that's on the stream as well or just on here.
I'll talk louder.
There you go. Scream at me.
Proximity to the mic.
No, it's quite
Maybe
possible.
that's it. Maybe I'll move closer. How's that?
Get closer. There we go, Jim. So this is from the Orthodox Christian. It sounds a bit better. Yeah. This is from Orthodox Christianity Post. Patriarch of Jerusalem receives JD Vance, VP Vance, at Holy Sepulchre. This is, of course, when JD was visiting Israel, which I find it interesting. He kind of, as far as I know, did not go to the wall, did not get the photograph of the wall. Instead, went to the Holy Sepulchre to meet with the Orthodox priest there. This is not the first time this has been happening. Of course, we have Bartholomew meeting with His Eminence Bartholomew meeting with Trump at the White House a few months ago. So, of course, we brought up the possibility of ecumenism. This is where Jim corrects me on how I pronounce things. So please, Jim, don't hold back. We have that sort of possibility of the meeting of the minds, let's say, and of course, there's been some sort of talk about possible schisms with ROCOR, the Russian Orthodoxy, Russian Orthodox churches. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen? As we're seem to have these things kind of come into focal point. What are your general thoughts of having a Roman Catholic as possibly the next president of the United States?
I'll defer to Jim for sure on this.
Well, I mean, to start with, I don't know what's going to happen between Patriarch Bartholomew and Pope Leo. This very well could turn into a dud like Crete 2016, where they have big plans, and maybe the Pope changes the dating of Easter for the Roman Catholics, because obviously Bartholomew can't do anything about how the Orthodox calculate Pascha. So if anybody's going to make a change, it has to be Leo. The bigger question is, even if they do that, even if Leo says, oh, okay, from now on, we're going to use the Orthodox reckoning of Easter, where does that get them then? How do they move the ball forward after that? And even if they try, okay, they've got the template. It's, it won't be exactly like Florence. They've got this new document out, study document from the papacy about the different kinds of roles that the papacy plays. He's the Bishop of Rome, he's the Patriarch of the West, he's the supreme teacher of all Christians, et cetera, et cetera. And I think they're setting this up to say, okay, how much Pope do you want? We can accommodate anything you want. You want 100% Pope? You could be a Roman Catholic. That's great. You only want 80%? You only want first among equals? Hey, we can handle that too. The Orthodox can have first among equals if they want. Or you only want 45% Pope, you're a Protestant, just the biggest denomination? No problem. We can do that too. Oh, you're a Hindu, you only want 20% Pope. Hey, we can do that too. And of course, they've got this big syncretic thing going on at the Vatican. So I think there's an agenda there. I'm not sure they're going to be able to move it along. I think, again, the bigger question I have in mind is, where does this fit into the agendas of all the string pullers in the geopolitical world? I mean, we know, for example, that that the CIA, as Jay's talked about, has had their hooks into the Vatican, since deep into the Cold War. And the same thing happened with the FONAR in 1948. If J.D. Vance, and look, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. If he's a very, very pious Roman Catholic, very sincere, he goes to the Holy Sepulchre instead of to the wall, that's great. But also you think about, Peter Thiel, Palantir, what are the political strings being pulled behind the scenes, even under the best of circumstances. I'm not saying we can necessarily figure all this out, but I think we need to be aware that there's more there than meets the eye.
Buck.
I actually want to defer to Jay because I have thoughts. There's people in the comments that talk about JD's wife and all these things. And it just keeps making me think, focus on yourself, not someone else's wife. But I want to let Jay speak on this too.
Well, just to throw it to Jay, because your last appearance on Alex Jones, you brought up the Changing Images of Man book, which I downloaded a PDF, and I think a lot of people have reached out in my comments and said they did the same thing. And just from your cursory, what you laid out on his show, it was like, there it is, right? Like a lot of the things that I've been talking on the show and many others, we've been talking about the edges, because it seems like we're getting this sort of transmission in and we're trying to figure out what's coming through the news. And then all of a sudden you bring this up and it's like, well, there it is, right? Like there's the foundations and this is kind of what we're picking up. It's not, we're starting to see the plan come into fruition. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit, Jay, because that seems to be this intersection between not only just Roman Catholic religion, all the rest of it, but with this sort of technocratic plan that's certainly Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, the PayPal mafia, that whole connection is starting to come into focus, I think, a bit more.
Well, on the issue of the EP in Rome, some clergy have reached out to me, and this is not confirmed, but they have heard that there's already been communion. So they've already participated at the EP in some form of communion together with Roman Catholics in terms of the Eucharist. But again, that's not confirmed. But the thesis from a very prominent priest that was explaining this to me was that they may just essentially, in line with what Jim was saying, and I remember that I read that papal document and did a podcast on it, the one that kind of offers it's like sales options for, like you can get the full papal package. You want the discount papal package that's 80% papacy, and then the economy package of papacy, which is 40%. But yeah, that the thesis, and this seems plausible to me, is that they're going to basically already start communing and doing it and then announce it's already happened. We've already entered into a union of some sort. So just get over it. Now, that's his thesis, and he's a very wise, perceptive priest that told me that, archpriest. So that seems to be in line with the sort of subtle, subversive ways that they go about these things, because they're not going to attempt a union on the basis of truth. It's got to be a union on the basis of these sort of Hegelian ideas like diapraxis, or these where you sort of dialogue to some future unknown synthesis conclusion. There's not a right or wrong. It's we're all on a journey to come to the future unified church. That kind of underlies all the ecumenist stuff, is this sort of Hegelian process philosophy. And so that's what they're committed to, and they're just going to act like there was a union, and anyone who's questioning it or rejecting it is divisive and a problem. So that's probably what they're going to do, because as we know, they're really not doing this on the basis of theology. It's geopolitical power moves that are the basis of it. I don't know what to make of J.D. Vance, and I've not really followed much of J.D. Vance. I know all the sort of Peter Thiel and Christian nationalism connections and all. I'm familiar with all that, but politics is pretty boring to me. I guess I'm gonna have to talk about it though, because everybody talks about politics. It's the religion of America next to football. But then to get the Changing Images of Man, so I don't ramble too much. Yeah, this was an interesting text that's it's been around kind of in the conspiracy alternative media research world for a long time. I first heard about this in the 2000s, and it was a really long, boring PDF. And I hate PDFs. I absolutely despise them. I refuse to read long PDFs. I will go and have them printed out at the print shop because I just will not read a PDF. And this book has been out of print and just almost impossible to get. And then lo and behold, a young college man sends me this $2,000 book, which you cannot find anywhere. I guess he found it at probably, I think, a discarded library book sale. And I don't think that this was sent as an active book because, like, in circulation, because my university essentially got rid of all their books, which blew me away. I went to check out the library not too long ago, and we had a really awesome library at Murray State 10 years ago. And now it's they've cleared out probably 70% of the books. And all there are there's one little tiny Marxist section. That's it. So all that's necessary, I guess, is just Marxism. That's a foregone conclusion that we're all going to be Marxists in the future. Anyway, but this is one of those elite textbooks that seems to be, it's a Stanford research policy text, system science and world order, explorations of world order. It's put together by people like Joseph Campbell, O.W. Markley, people from the CIA, people from Harvard, all these different elite universities, Ivy League schools, and it kind of presents what they think is the way to socially engineer America. That's written in 1982 to get to the technocratic future. And so a lot more of the book dealt with the religion of the future than I expected. You could look at this as, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Father Seraphim Rose's book, Orthodox and the Religion of the Future. Well, that religion of the future part is this. This is it. This is from the top of the establishment. This is what, people like Kissinger, at that level would be reading this kind of a text. A lot of the same people from the Frankfurt School, a lot of people involved in esoteric and occult studies at Stanford Research. That might sound a little out there, but that's what this book is about. So as with most of these texts, it begins with the idea of, we're all in a crisis, overpopulation, nuclear weapons. What are we going to do? Well, I guess we're going to have to institute a technocratic socialist policy where we dumb everybody down and create a post-industrial world. Well, how do we get to a post-industrial world when you still have a lot of people, even in the early 80s, who were in some sense Christian or had some notion of, Western civilization based ideas? And so the book is essentially about that, cultivating new archetypes to program both the conscious and the subconscious mind. And that's actually what it says, to bring them into some future inchoate new religion that could be crafted by the priest class and the scientism class. And so it goes very in depth, way more in depth than I expected, in fact, into worldview warfare, into presuppositional worldview foundations. I did not expect that to be there. Thomas Kuhn, Structure of the Scientific Revolution, all of that plays a heavy role. And just to kind of bring it full circle, and I'll shut up, is there's actually chapters on LSD, psychedelics, float tanks, and contacting entities as part of spiritual enlightenment, aliens. All of that's part of this. And there's basically 2 chapters that does nothing but cite MK Ultra doctors. So it's John C. Lilly, it's Jose Delgado, Carl Jung. I mean, he's not necessarily, well, he is actually kind of an MK Ultra doctor, but yeah, so that's what it is. And then it kind of culminates, I'm just giving the overview, culminates in basically saying that, well, the religion of the future will be a perennialist religion, kind of what Aldous Huxley wrote in his book, Perennialism. And it'll be something like, imagine Joe Rogan as a techno shaman. That's the future. That's the religion of the future.
Yeah, it's interesting now seeing people react to the psychedelic intrusions or the gateways. Now it's finally kind of getting a little bit of traction. I think that the mainstreaming of demons has been a really interesting thing this year, where suddenly everyone's just talking about demons, and even the left are reacting to it. Like, what, the right wing's talking about demons now? We're like, yes, we're talking about demons. And I think the Charlie Kirk assassination kind of put that in the forefront. And of course, then calling into question about DMT.
I don't know if you can see this, but here's a chart. And right there, contacting entities is very crucial to this process. Higher levels of awareness, functioning, meta programs, transcendence of time and space, etc. Contact with the spiritual entities. So,
I mean, what do you want to do with we see what you guys do with this, because of course we know from the Orthodox traditions that gifts of clairvoyance and other miracles, let's say other gifts, are, I wouldn't say common, but they're certainly not rare within monasteries and within certain saints. This seems to be like what you're detailing here, Jay, is that they're aware of this, but they think it's biological. They think it's somehow in here, and they're trying to biohack it to get to here. They don't really want to believe in the whole, it comes from God and only comes from God. Therefore, must be some sort of biological hack.
Well, actually, this text is not an atheistic text at all. In fact, it relies heavily on Hinduism. There's a lot of Bhagavad Gita references, citations, and so God is the within. God is all things. It says that multiple times, and so they do believe in sort of contacting higher realms, but that's the realm of Atman and Brahman and all that stuff. That's what they actually say, which is very prescient in terms of what Father Seraphim Rose said, because he said Hinduism is really crucial to the religion of the future, and maybe that's why they bring so many Hindus into the West.
Buck,
there's sort of a groundwork too, if you can make a synergistic effect between, like, if you take the hot topic Christianity and the ecumenism of, look, this martyr was publicly executed. We're all coming to the church. We're all coming to Jesus at this point. It doesn't matter, how you get there. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. You guys have your thing, but we're all coming there at the same time when a massive portion of the female population is looking into, I'm spiritual, not religious, and doing birth chart readings or psychic, blah, 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 new age stuff. And sort of that can flow into the same thing. And then the men on the Joe Rogan side and Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, and these sort of alpha males that we may look up to are going like, well, dude, I took this DMT trip and I did this, and I contacted these spirits. This is a spiritual age, you guys. Like, the new atheists are a joke at this point. They're gone. This is a spiritual age. And so you've got this culmination of like the female perspective of like reading tarot cards and finding psychics and Eastern mysticism, and the males doing like, oh, I'm doing DMT like Rogan and these badass dudes, alphas, and then Charlie Kirk gets murdered. And we're also going to all kinds of churches, and that's how we find the afterlife. And that's what's important. That's what Charlie wanted, guys. And then here we are at this sort of like still what seems to be, in relation to the rest of it, like fringe, even though we're growing for sure. And some of that worries me, like that dichotomy of like, we're in the church and all of these things are going around. It's not atheist per se, but it's certainly spiritual, and it seems negative in my thoughts.
I think just briefly, before we get comments from Jay or Jim, it seems to me that it's directional. So it's a lot of people going into the church, and this is kind of my prediction with the neo-trads, kind of mush Christianity, is that people what they really want is redemption, but they'll settle for forgiveness. And what they're trying to take from things, they're going to the church to get something from it, but not realize that you have to give. You have to give to get. And I think that's where they're going to get sort of screwed up there, in that sort of what mush Christianity will present to them is sort of like, we're all one, and you can get forgiveness, and you can get some sort of community and all the rest of it, and you don't have to do anything. You just have to show up to church and maybe read the book and become really annoying at saying blessing that before dinner.
just like the left has done for the past, since I've been into politics. You don't have to do anything, but if you say, I have a black square on my profile, look at me, I have a bumper sticker slogan, I'm doing something. It's like the meme, like I'm doing a thing or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but, and so if the culture swings right and some of those people swing this way and they're like, well, now here's my picture in front of a neon sign at my church. Again, I really hate sometimes speaking out about this because I don't want to sound judgmental. It's more that I'm lying caution out there, like, just these are traps, and just because it seems spiritual or holy or involved in a church does not mean that it's necessarily like the demons aren't just like feeding you some suggestions out there to do.
Jim?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, look, I mean, how do I put this? I think so much of what's going on now in most people's minds, basically just sort of normie right-left stuff. It's all about Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives. The culture is swinging right. I don't think it's quite that simple. Okay, fine. You got the septum ring, blue-haired people on the other side, and people who on at least quote our side are superficially more normal. But I'm afraid that a lot of this is just a manipulation by different wings of the same ruling establishment.
Yes.
That one way or the other they want. It's kind of, you might call it political perennialism. We're getting to the same place anyway, and except it'll be conservative values, it'll be conservative control mechanism rather than the woke Skittles colored one, which won't be going away either. I mean, I just, and by the way, I think this also is going to possibly manifest itself in the church, especially if there is some kind of a creeping union with Rome, given the kind of politics we have. Which orthodoxy are you, Greek or Russian? What about Moscow and Constantinople? Is that, I could even see a circumstance where there's the good Orthodox Church that fits in with all the new values and the new political agenda that answers to the U.S. government, and the bad Orthodox, who are all a bunch of Russian bots, and there could be consequences for that. So, in other words, I don't think we can take any of this at face value. By the way, the other thing is, it strikes me too, during the coup and obviously climate change and all that, we believe the science, trust the science. I think that's so passe. I mean, none of that is real anymore. I mean, for example, when now that the evolution basically is not even viable anymore, they've resorted to magic. Multiverses. It's all past rationalism and science as we knew it, say, in the 19th century, and they're basically engaging in magic. And that's where you also get the religion of the future coming into this. And by the way, there is a real power there. I mean, remember when Moses was turning a staff into a serpent? And well, Janus and Jambres, the magicians of Egypt, they could do the same things, except they did it through the dark arts rather than through the power of God. So let's not kid ourselves that there is a real spiritual presence out there. One footnote, by the way, because it addresses one in the chat. If there is some kind of a union with Rome, remember, from the Roman Catholic point of view, we already are in communion with them. If you go to a Catholic church, you look at the missal there, it says, Orthodox can receive communion there if it's in keeping with the discipline of their own church, which, by the way, it's not. But from their point of view, unity means submission to Rome. It doesn't mean Eucharistic unity. Unity of faith, somatic unity through the Eucharist, the sacraments, and a common faith, for which for us, community is the culmination of that unity. For them, it's a means to unity. So for them to invite us to communion, for Orthodox bishops or patriarchs to communion with them, that's perfectly in keeping with Rome's theology. And as long as we're willing to do that, I think Jay's right. We could find ourselves easily creeping in to that kind of unity. I guess the question is, when it becomes public, that's where it puts the other autocephalous churches on the spot. Because if, say, Bartholomew says, "I am now communing with Pope Leo," the other churches really then have to decide. They'll either have to decide, I'm gonna keep communion with Bartholomew, which, even if they don't themselves directly commune with the papacy, means that they're in communion with Rome, or at some point they have to say, no, I guess I have to break communion with Constantinople, like they did after Florence in 1439. So I don't think, I think they can try to play the sneaky route up to a certain point, but once they reach a certain point, people are going to have to stand up and be counted, and the house will divide, and I think it'll be a very ugly schism.
Jay, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that before, just to add on a little bit. This again, going back to your Alex Jones appearance, one thing that you mentioned that I actually literally fist pumped about 2 or 3 times, because it's something that I've been trying to drill into people's heads, especially about the tiny hats, and how people are being overly focused on the tiny hats. And I think Nick Fuentes and a few other people kind of play their role on that. And what I've been trying to say to people repeatedly is that, yes, they play a role. There are, we can certainly discuss them, and Zionism and all the rest of it, but it's not just them. That this thing is much bigger and much more complicated, and involves a lot more people than just one group of people out in the Middle East or in the city of London or the rest of it. So thank you for that. And I don't know. Maybe you could add a little bit of that in with a response to Jim.
Well, yeah, I think for us it's orthodoxy first, not America first, and we can have America second, something like that if you're really politically savvy and you're into that. But I don't think for any of us we would ever make the political first, and that's really, I think it echoes the attitude of Rome as well. Rome is actually politics first. It's actually power first. That was the whole ethos of Rome back to Gregory the Seventh and Dictatus Papae, and those 11th century reforms prepared the way for a entirely, essentially political papacy that we've had for 1,000 years all the way up till now. And once you understand that, it all kind of makes sense. So I don't know what what's going to come out of that. I think Jim's right that a covert union is just kind of done in the background to wait to kind of circumvent people, sort of throwing a curveball and surprise, a bait and switch. Oh, sorry, were you already in communion with Rome? You sure you want to leave? You're already in communion with Rome. So they will announce it, but how that'll come about, we don't know, or when that will happen. But they probably won't make that move until they feel like there's enough supporters behind it, and people like myself or any other people, the voices that are out there, have to be just constantly demonized. And like Jim said, there'll be consequences for that eventually, because they're just going to say, oh, you all work for Putin. I mean, just this week after that Alex Jones appearance, there's quite a bit of a pro NATO, pro tiny mustache man contingent across Twitter that was precisely saying that we know Dyer is an FSB agent and all this nonsense. So that's already, they've already been saying that kind of stuff in the far right, or what I call the gay right, which is like the NATO, Ukraine, sorry, the gay right. The gay right is, already kind of a captured entity. I'm talking about the sort of neo, the neo tiny mustache man people on Twitter. Not all the trad cats, because there's a lot of trad cats that are not part of the gay right per se openly. But so, yeah, I don't know where that's going to go, but it'll probably lead to persecution. I mean, that's probably where we're headed. And that'll be another winnowing fan to, separate wheat from chaff, because a lot of people were converting in 2020. And then we got the coup, and that drove a lot of people away. A lot of people had a very hard time converting during that time period. Had a hard time finding churches that even wanted converts. So, we have a two-pronged attack. If we had faithful bishops and clergy across the board, we could actually win this whole culture war. We would dominate. I mean, we've only seen an inkling of what could happen. But if we put politics and Americanism and all this kind of nonsense first, then Jesus says you'll be trampled upon. So you can either have the upper hand and dominate the culture, and orthodoxy will dominate the culture if people believe it and keep it, or it'll be trodden under and you suffer the potential loss of your lampstand, as Revelation 2 and 3 says. The covenant curses come upon you when you say, oh, we're going to put Americanism first. I met so many, OCA domain people that not all, there's many great OCA priests and people, but many of them actually believe America comes first in the sense of like liberalism. They'll commune the trans, the gay, all of that, they'll do that before anything else. So that's for them, that's first. It's like America first, politics first, gay first, right? What about orthodoxy first?
Yeah. I think some of the stuff that gets my ire up maybe about the somewhat positive reaction again to Kirk's public execution is it sort of gets funneled. The grifters take advantage of this energy and funnel it into their own things. And it's like, yes, he was America first. I never really, to be honest, listened to Charlie Kirk. Aware of him now, of course. I was aware of him then. Again, I wouldn't not want to see anyone, even Rachel Maddow, done that way publicly. But the instinct, and I had to get over this myself. I was an atheist. I was an ANCAP, a libertarian, before I was Orthodox, and I sort of had the weird experience to make this transition publicly over a podcast. And you have to quit worrying, if you're in the mindset that I was in, what's going to save America? Because if you're Orthodox, that's the beginning. That's everything. That's the worldview. That's us. And to worry about, well, now I'm American, dude. Like, who's going to be the best for this country? How can liberty prevail? All of these things that I concern myself with, that all comes and goes. And when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, man, I wish that one senator would have been elected because drug laws would have been this or that. It's like empires come and go. I don't know where ours is in the grand scheme of things, but I do know the Orthodox Church has been here since the beginning. And so I've tried to put my lust for talking about politics. I'm still fascinated with it. It's still going to be a guilty pleasure of mine. But man, that's not very important in the grand scheme of things. Even if things go to shit and my pension goes poorly with the fire department and whatnot, like, I have the Orthodox Church. And so I'm trying to put out there, like, quit worrying so much about, like, man, if all we at least need public debates on who has the best ideas and freedom of speech. I don't even the term freedom of speech, the old me is cringing right now, but even that sort of makes me turned off now. I would put out there, just be careful being so obsessed with politics that you're worried about everything Trump does, everything he says, everything his detractors say, because you're getting lost in this weird sauce of things that aren't necessarily important, when the church is the foundation of everything that we believe and has been here since the beginning and will outlive America. If we're around, if this planet's around for another 1,000 years, things won't even look the same, but the church will be the same for a fact. And so I'm trying to put that out there too. And this sort of fallout of the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's like, well, we're all America first. We found Christ. We're going to church. It's like, okay, what direction are you headed in with this? Is it like, so you can be on the political right and we can get some wins here? Or is it that you like take this sort of garb off yourself and face how shitty of a person you are, like we all are, and like now focus on me and what does this mean for myself, my family, my future, not necessarily like who gets elected next.
In Haggai 1, the Israelites are chastised because they're concerned with their economics, they're concerned with politics, and the house of it, the temple is in ruins, it's falling apart. And God says, why have you not put my house first? You put all your other business affairs first. And that's why he says you put your savings into a bag and the bag stays empty. So it's the money was inflating, is what I think that means. So you're losing your money. You're working for this stuff that's not working. And why is that? Well, you got the wrong things first, right? Seek first the kingdom of God, and these other things will be added. So the Roman Empire wasn't conquered by the 1st and 2nd century Christians being tactical and trying to find all the senators and convert the Roman emperor and all this kind of stuff. Like, that came in time when, it spread through the empire. So I just think it's wrong-headed. And also, as I'm sure Jim knows better than any of us, he's been in the world of politics. He knows all about lobbying and all that. I mean, you don't really have a lot of effect in politics if you don't have a lot of money. I mean, that's my sense of politics. It's a rich man's game, unless you're Larry Ellison and Elon and all these billionaires. I mean, politics is kind of, unless it's local, it's interesting, but it's not a whole lot different than watching soap operas to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do about it. I mean, let's face it, most of what's happening and is going to happen is baked into the cake. And of course, this is where I think even a lot of normies are getting aware that this whole democratic thing and voting it's a dead end. It's not going to fix anything. And it is a temptation too for people becoming Orthodox. They think it's the Orthodox Church. That somehow, because I'm conservative, I reject all the rainbow and the tranny stuff. Well, this is the church of being based, and it's not about based politics either. I mean, obviously, at least from what I understand, everything I understand, that there's certain social pathologies that are inherent in left-wing politics that are not compatible with orthodoxy. But this is not about politics. And I think a lot of guys, especially young men coming in, I think part of it is an attraction to say, this is where all the base people are. Well, it ain't that either. And and back to the bigger question of what is happening around us right now, I do get a little worried that this division now, Charlie Kirk is going to be the bloody shirt, the horsed vessel of the American right now. This polarization between Orange Hitler and Cheeto Messiah, between the Trump derangement syndrome and the Trump worship syndrome, is becoming itself a great object of manipulation for much bigger interests than just right or left. Which I mean, one thing just drives me crazy about boomers is that so many of them, their entire awareness of America is simply Republicans and Democrats.
Yes.
As though that were a significant difference in this country, other than just kind of a mechanical thing you have to be aware of, but it's not really what it's all about.
Yes, and the Constitution, which is
my Constitution. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, it just seems ironic.
Didn't we used to have one of those? We used to have one of those ones, didn't we?
It's a sacred document. I mean, it's where all the rights are. It's amazing. You just wave it in front of people. They have to obey you.
We used to joke on the old podcast I go on the founding fathers, the powder that's in those wigs, it's a magical powder, and they shake it out on the Constitution, and it endues it with mystical powers, that powdered wig powder.
And it holds up forever, no matter what.
They used to do that with their wigs, like the cloth over the chalice during the creed.
Right. Yes.
Folks, we do have a goal to hit over on the super chats. We're pretty close to the goal. Keep sending them over on YouTube, and I will host an after show after this. So thank you so much for doing that. We'll read out some super chats at the very end. I just want to be respectful to everyone's times here. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for agreeing to come on. This is amazing, as I suspected it would be.
I charge one Bitcoin per appearance, so please remember that, one Bitcoin per appearance.
IOUs possible, or do we have to? We'll talk about it after. We'll figure it out. There'll be some sort of trade. I went to the local bookstore down here, and I tried to order your book, Esoteric Hollywood 3, which is coming out soon. And I was told that it's only released in Australia in February. In February, I was like, "What? What?" See, when I say this place is retarded, I'm not joking. That's number 2.
Yeah, I don't know why 3 would be that far off, but I am getting the books tomorrow. So if you want to order it from the website, from me, you can get it for sure. The problem is, though, Jason, that unfortunately the the socialists that run your country charge an outrageous amount to mail anything to Australia. It costs more than the book. It costs more than the book to mail it to you. So it's like $75. It's crazy. Canada, and after COVID is like the price has basically doubled. It used to be $20 to mail stuff to Canada, and now it's like 40 or 50 to mail a book. It's just insane. So so there is that option. It is obviously a lot more pricey, but I have talked to the shipping company on the phone, and the books are coming tomorrow. So I know people are very testy excited, because it's been months that they delayed. It's been delayed. I had to make 4 hours of changes the other day or a few weeks ago. So I apologize. It's going to be here tomorrow, but that means I start shipping them out tomorrow, and it's just me and Jamie. So it's going to take us probably 2 weeks to get 300 or 400 orders out.
One last, let's do this as the last point. I know, also, Jim, I want to throw it to you. You said you had some bulletin points, but just as my last throw in there, Jim, what Jim and I have been covering on Then and Now for basically the past year or so, and God bless Jim. Let me just shine his shoes a little bit, because he has stuck by me in this year of technical difficulties and every single bloody internet demon thing that they want to throw my way. And we have persevered, and Jim has been very, very gracious for staying at my side. So I think.
Oh my God, Jim, don't show feet.
Wash the feet,
for free, bro. Yeah, I
think
I can make.
If you want to see the other foot, folks, you got to send some money over on Streamlabs or Super Chat.
One Bitcoin.
We got to work together on this.
One Bitcoin per
foot. Jay's doing it too. Jay, you're losing out on a lot of money.
Wait,
saying into my toe, will you give me some Bitcoin?
Jay Dyer, foot fetishist.
You know, that's weird when I never even thought about that. But if you show your feet, people will actually call you out, because apparently the younger you go, like the Gen Z, they're like, that's a fetish. Why are you showing your feet? I mean, I know that that Quentin Tarantino has but I didn't know this was a thing that everyone is talking about.
That should be on your neck. Esoteric Hollywood 4 will just be pictures of Jay's feet.
Esoteric.
Esoteric. Very nice, sir.
I don't know. It just seems a man rubbing the feet of a guy's wife. That doesn't seem right to me somehow.
We've entered Toegate. This is now Toegate. We've started Toegate on the marriage on Meet the Blessed. You heard it here first, folks. One of the things that Jim and I cover quite a bit, obviously, is the Ukraine-Russia war, and quite often when looking at this situation, my thinking has evolved when we first started talking about this to where we are at now, where I think we're seeing as a mass human sacrifice that either Putin or both sides are either aware of and complicit with, or doing their own thing, which results in the same direction. Ultimately, they all work for the same people or for the same results. Let's say. When it gets mired into, let's say, Holy Russia, and when we started thinking about possibly the creation of Novorossiya after this Ukraine situation is done, and then of course with the prophecies coming out of Crete and Metropolitan help me out here, Neophytos. Which Conrad Franz over at World War Now has been amazing at detailing. So we have all this backdrop. We have all these things going on, and just to dovetail into what Jim and Buck were talking about before, about seems to be this focal point, like things are happening all at once now, very quickly, and I believe this is basically the setup for official World War III. Either that will be smaller, more contained wars, or something more global like we've seen before. But I think that is almost now becoming inevitable. The reason why we should never black pill is that we are at this point in time where we have an amazing influx of people. And I think, and let me know what you guys think about this, is that the direction really for any Orthodox person with means or abilities is to start setting up that infrastructure. Because what we're lacking right now, we have the people coming into the church, but we need the infrastructure for the church, not just to grow, but to maintain. So we need to be growing priests. We need to be growing media infrastructures, financial infrastructures, all the rest of it, and make that a global network. Because if we're going to, we're not going out, we're not going down without a fight. That's for dang sure. At least I'm not, and I know many feel the same way. So if we're looking at Ukraine and Russia as a blueprint, and really as now the Gaza plan as another blueprint for what they want, I guess the open question here is, which side are they on? If we're looking at Trump and Elon and the Americans and that situation, we're talking about Putin or other actors. What side do you think these guys are on? Where do you see this going in the next 5 to 10, 15 years? Anyone? You're muted.
No place
Sorry,
good.
dude. You're muted. Unmute.
That's definitely a Jim question first. And I have thoughts on this.
Yeah, so the answer. Look, Jason, you're asking a question nobody can answer. No place good is the short answer. I mean, I think you're right. Things are increasingly taking on the contours of a world war. Maybe it will turn into one like the previous two world wars, in which case it'll go nuclear, and then we probably won't have much to worry about. I mean, but if it doesn't, and it's kind of a different war fought in multiple theaters without going all out in any one of them, it could unfold in very very unpredictable ways. And I think the main thing, at least in the short term for us, and again, not to get too deep into the politics, is that it's going to involve some kind of internal crisis here in the United States that will exacerbate the divisions we're already seeing. And that's where all the other stuff we're talking about, the moral stuff, the spiritual stuff, is all going to be going into overdrive. And I don't think we can anticipate exactly how that's going to fall out, except to say it's not going to be pleasant.
Buck, you said you had some thoughts.
No, I don't. I can't. I'm not educated enough. I have feelings. Let's put it that way. And I wish more people would be willing to say that. I have feelings on some of this rather than educated thoughts. But just real quick, there was something in the comments, and not to derail the conversation, but it just hits upon a point I was trying to make. It said something along the lines of, "Why do you have such division? We all have the same God, whether you believe it or not." And we do not. That's the fear that I have with this. I remember being with a priest, and maybe it's not fair to share his name because everyone knows who he is, when I was in Mount Athos. And his main message to us was like, ecumenism, and it's a word I always have trouble saying. Ecumenism is the biggest threat that we face right now. And boy, it seems, again, to bring it back to post-Kirk issues, that is the thing. We don't all have the same God. And as Father Turbo mentioned, I think it was even in his speech at Ludwell, God has you for sure. You don't have God. And that's, I know it sounds harsh, and people are going, well, I don't need an organized religion, or I don't need a structure. But whatever the case is, if you come at that opinion and end goal here in your thought process, you don't feel the same way that the church fathers felt in the Christianity of the first 1,000 years. No one felt that way. So just think of it this way. Prior to 1054, when someone said, "Hey, I'm going to church," there's no question of what kind of church are you going to, or what denomination you are, or is it liberal, or Do you guys let in these people or do you do this? It was only the church. So again, we don't all have the same God. I've been told tiny hats worship the same God as we do. That's not true. Muslims, that's not true. And we can extrapolate it from on and on. And I know it sounds harsh and I know it sounds cold or judgmental. And I'm not trying to sound that way. I'm just trying to present it as the truth as it's been given to me through the church. We don't all worship the same God. God has you, but do you have God is the big question here. And sorry to derail the conversation off of Russia and Ukraine and foreign policy, but it was something that came up in the comments.
No, I think it's related anyways, Buck, because of course what we see with the traditional traditional Ukrainian church and now the whatever this
Perfect
thing is.
example. No, it's Orthodox, dude. Our State Department supported it. You want to ask the monks and the priests that are getting jailed if they think it's the same church?
Jay?
Well, 1 John 2 says, "Who is a liar but he that denies Jesus is the Messiah? That person is Antichrist. He that denieth the Father and the Son. If you deny the Son, you do not have the Father."
Yes.
Well, Islam, Judaism, all are predicated on denying the Son. They don't have the same God. Now, I mean, to get to the issue of future geopolitical conflicts, I don't know. I mean, I think it's looking like they want to take America into some civil war scenario eventually. At least the left has been more and more calling for violence. It's obviously why they're importing so many people, is to turn the country totally left or to have some kind of conflict down the road, which I don't know how that'll happen or what they'll do. But remember that, you know, a lot of the people who are intent on kind of collapsing the country, you know, they know how to do this in other countries, so that they know how to initiate regime change and have these kinds of coups. You know, this is a big, powerful, wealthy country, so it's maybe a little bit more difficult to do. It takes longer, but I think probably they think in long-term generational, you know, sections. At least that's when you read these people like Jacques Attali and Kissinger, they kind of plotted out sort of, you know, decades at a time. And so they're looking to where are we going to be at 2040, 2050. They're very explicit in their books, especially Brief History of the Future. It says, you know, we want the Golem AI global brain by 2050. To get there, we have to, Attali says, we're going to have to fight against a rising return of Christianity in the West. So, you know, that's pretty spicy stuff. And he you know, he's full on like transhumanist AI. That's the system they're bringing in. So that's where we're going.
I agree with all. I agree with all that. Although I would caution that I would not say that this is something exclusively from the left. That when
yeah, no, I didn't mean to give that impression. I just meant they're more radical, but I agree.
No. Well, no, and they are, at least they in terms of their rank and file. Yeah, they are more violent because they've been powered by the establishment to be more radical and get away with it. Whereas a bunch of people on the so-called right march around in you know, Hawaiian shirts, then the feds come out and throw them all in jail. But you know, when the right then has its martyr now, and the right consists of let's see, me, boyfriend Jesus, the Republican Party in Israel. That's what passes for a right, and that doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence about what their agenda is too, and the extent to which you know, going after the left or Antifa is a terrorist organization, even though Antifa is not even an organization, and that the state is being mobilized because we're in power now. And we can do it to them now because they did to us. That doesn't give me a warm, fuzzy feeling in terms of the way the direction's going. And the last thing I would say, you know, Jay said this is something that could take a long time in a country like this, decades, generations. Yeah. And when did it really go into high gear? In the 1960s. And I would say we are at the end or coming into to the culmination of that process. So, in other words, when we talk about that kind of I hate to use the word collapse of America, we're not talking about something I think that's going to happen 20 or 40 years from now. We're talking about something that we're already starting to get close to the acceleration phase that I think easily could be happening just in the next few years and much more suddenly than people think. It's one of those things that once it gets started slowly, faster, oh, zoom, and then it happens very fast. Look at the way the Soviet Union collapsed.
Yes.
Look at the way, for that matter, Syria collapsed. I mean, these things can happen very fast once they get going.
Look at the way, Jim and I have thoughts on this other than the mainstream view, but to take the mainstream view, look at the way slavery ended. If you said to someone in 1855, hey, they're all going to be gone, and then in 10 years, really, that sounds weird. And so I think we get this spoiled weak man mentality, which I admit that I have myself often, where you're comfortable and it's like, this will probably work out fine for the rest of my career and probably be okay. It could be gone in 2 years. And I think the comfort that I have now is that I'm not worried about, like, my God, is Vance going to win for the next election? Are we going to have AOC? Part of me cares because I love politics. And a large part of me is like, I don't care because I have Christ and the church. And I'd rather put my faith in that and see where things go than to constantly be worried about how can I fix this on a political national level.
Jim, you said you had some bulletin points, and
I'm old, so that's good.
It's later than you think. It's both personal and external. It's both internal and external. It works in both directions. Jim, you said you had some bulletin points that you wanted to get to, especially about the Orthodoxy.
I already covered them in my No, I already covered them in my initial remarks, so we already got to that.
Okay, let me just read out some super chats really briefly here, and then we'll get to some final thoughts. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for giving me your time. I do appreciate it. And this show has done what I hoped it would do. So far, so good. Even though it's me being the host, so anything bad could happen. But so far, no one has dropped out, and my computer hasn't caught on fire. So there's some hope in the
And
world.
your socialist government hadn't kicked us off yet.
Well, it come December, we're going to find out what's going to happen. Because
there's some anti-Semitism laws coming there, isn't there?
Oh, that's already been passed. No, the big question for December will be they're passing very similar to what they did in Britain with age restricted voter, like basically digital ID, but to protect the children. Buck, social media is having this horrible effect on children, so we're going to have to make sure we have an age verification for everybody. How that's going to work, we don't know, but it's going to be basically just digital ID. To protect the children from social media. So we'll see how that goes. My bitter white pill is that, as I've said quite often, and with notable exceptions like Don Browning, who's in the chat, and a few others who follow the channel, but most of Australia, at least the leadership in Australia, is heavily retarded. I've come from Montreal, Canada. I thought I came from the most bureaucratically retarded place in the whole world, and then I moved here. I'm like, wow, there's levels to this. There are levels to this, and I'm encountering it on a daily basis. It's kind of why I don't leave my house. So thank you to everyone who sent a super chat, who allows me to not leave the house on a daily basis. We have
you give Jay, Jim, and myself really zero reason to complain about anything. You went from Canada to Australia during COVID,
right? To the West, where they didn't lock down everything else.
Guantanamo Bay to a concentration camp, and I'm just, I'm good.
Well, you married an Australian, these things happen, but the shame's on me. Mongolab said $10, €10, saying if Jay said what is true, then the schism will worsen from political to partial to full. We didn't really talk too much about schisms. We kind of mentioned it. There definitely seems to be whispers about that. And I've kind of said on the show quite often with the using Ukraine as a beta test, things are going to get probably a little bit more tough for people, especially people who are just entering World Corps and any kind of Russian affiliated church in the last few years. But I think we've kind of touched on that on the show. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, real quick. I'm actually kind of optimistic, uncharacteristically optimistic about that, because if something happens between Rome and Constantinople, I think, I mean, look what's happened with the fake church in Ukraine. Who did Constantinople get on their side? They got Alexandria, and then they got the primates of the Greek church and the Cypriot church, but not all of their synod. And then basically nobody else has signed on to this thing. My guess is that if they actually overtly went into union with Rome, and intercommunion with Rome, I agree. There would be riots in Greece. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, real riots, bloody riots. People are not going to put up with this stuff. And if they tried if Athens tried to go in that direction, I can't. I think Bartholomew would be hanging himself if he does that. I don't think he has a lot of room for optimism, no matter how much pressure the Americans try to put on, because they tried to do the same thing with Ukraine. They sent Sam Brown back when he's the ambassador for religious freedom to around all these countries to bend the arm of Bucharest and Sofia and Belgrade and Tbilisi, try to get them to sign on to Ukraine. They wouldn't do it, and so I don't think they'll go very far with this thing if it happens.
Buck, Jay, any add on to that? Nope. Okay.
I mean, I tend to agree with Jim on that, by the way. Even the optimism I have about the Orthodox Church, not only, of course, that it's everlasting and eternal, but I mean, even for the time being, every attack I see on people like Jay and Jim and priests that I'm close with, within the quote unquote Orthodox circles, they die out very quickly. They fall to the wayside. They're gone. They don't get any traction at all. I've seen names come after Father John Whiteford, Father Turbo, Father Peter Heers, Jim Jatras, Jay Dyer, Father Deacon
Father
Ananias,
Moses just recently. Yeah.
Father yeah. And it's just like, okay, it makes a splash for a second because those are big names. And then the people that are doing the attacking, they're gone. And so that's a positive thing, in my opinion, within the church.
Jay?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, we've seen quite a bit of that. Obviously, if you're in the debate sphere, you're going to kind of rile up people, and you're going to get a lot more opposition. And I think that a lot of the people who fostered that opposition, some of them for even like 7 years, kind of ended up, at least 3 or 4 of them admitted they were on meds, and 2 of them have left the church and aren't even Orthodox. So, that time eventually vindicates, I think, this kind of stuff, especially, if you are sincere, you just keep trudging forward and you'll end up being vindicated. So, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem is going to be not people criticizing like that, but the ecumenism and the hierarchy will eventually either lead to a schism, or they're going to try to do something to come after people. There's not much they can do, though, because they don't really understand Streisand effect. The more that you try to oppose and lie about people, it just really makes the people more. It gives more attention, and that's the way the internet works. But a lot of the people who are ecumenist amongst clergy that are sort of more boomer, they think that clamp down, shut them up, censor them. It doesn't work. We're in a totally different world from that older model of things, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, they're extremists.
Just briefly, Jake, because you kind of mentioned with the Discord and all the rest of it, your effect, especially on young men. Just speaking on a personal level, when we had you on the show with Jim a few months ago, I went back to my parish and I had a lineup of people who wanted to talk to me. Your effects down here, and positively, your effects down here are definitely felt. So If anyone has any criticism for Jay Dyer, just understand, especially within Orthodoxy, just understand that Jay is bringing more young men into the church, or bringing more young men with
people. I would say at this point,
with people in general. He's done more for attendance than most, let's say.
Yes.
So there's
most of the people I talk to.
Just shine your shoes a little bit there, Jay.
Yeah, I have hundreds of women that come up and they're like, "Can I meet
in lieu of the Bitcoin?"
So he's so sexy. They want him. I'm like, ladies, he's married.
Is that a joke, or is that a joke?
No,
Buck, or is it?
It's a joke based on reality. Let's say, because it has gone from in the past 5 years to men going, "Do you know Jay Dyer?" to people generally saying,
so actual females are converting. It's not just 19-year-old spurgy dudes that are obsessed with tag and philosophy.
Well, at the Ludwell conference, I did see the line "to speak with you at lunch." Not as female heavy, but there's been a lot of this latest boom.
In 2017, there was a lot of nerdy, spurgy theology dudes who are now sort of Chad married dudes. So hopefully this rehab program is working. But I noticed at Ludwell, and obviously the audience wasn't just there for me, but at Ludwell there was quite a few young couples, guys and girls, and that was definitely different from previous live events for sure.
This latest boom within the church seems to be heavier amongst families than the boom that Jason and I came in to the church as men.
Right.
And I've seen that when I go to Father John Whiteford's parish down a few hours from me, like the new converts that I see speaking to him, or that will even come up to me and talk. It's married couples. It's beautiful.
Nothing wrong with the young dudes, though. Obviously, we got to get the young dudes in too. It's just the phases have different flavors to them, which is very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, at Ludwell we had like 30% female by my just visuals. That's pretty good for an Orthodox conference. I mean, especially on a topic like Southern stuff and all that. As far as Jay goes, I don't know what black-hearted sins he'll have on his account on Judgment Day. But he can count. There'll be thousands of people there. Will say, "Go easy on him, Lord. I wouldn't be here if not for him."
100%.
So that's something you can look forward to when the time comes.
Maybe that'll cover up, my pride and dirty thoughts, and the typical guy stuff. So that the guys deal with. So
we can all hope for ourselves.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Saint Jim.
That's why I call him the elder. We always sit under his tree.
Well, when they say even when a man is 90 years old, his eyes are still 19.
The rest of them isn't. So
that's the plus, I guess.
Well, I heard science is helping with that. So it's not all bad. It's just like AI. $10 from one of the based Australians, Dawn. Keep your eyes open for book sales at your local library. She was commenting on the changing faces of man. I think what's the she also mentioned that there's printers out there. I think that's kind of we're talking about infrastructure, or I was talking about infrastructure for the church. Definitely setting up printing, local printing, especially here in Australia, but I think all over the place, would be a good idea if people have any money to throw around or connections to set up more printing, small printers that we can print out things like, of course, Orthodox books and translations, but also things like Changing Images of Man and other books like that to give people kind of an overview of where the enemy is and how they're manifesting. It should never be a blackpilling event. It's just more like, as I always say, it's like I'm a weatherman. I'm just telling you which way the wind blows. What you do with that is up to you. But at least you have that information. How much more time would you have saved in 2019 or early 2020 if you had known more, if you had gotten that a little bit more extra information, and then having to run around with your hair on fire like I did for about 6 months. until things kind of you started having to figure things out. So, and jump in, guys, if you want to comment on anything of this. I'll just read through these. $5 from Handsome Cat. When you take communion, are you okay? Yeah, this is this guy. Trolls. Although he did send me $5. So if trolls want to send me $5 to troll and just have your comments deleted by Dawn and moderators in the chat, please continue. It's perfectly fine.
I've never understood that. I always get a kick out of the people who like are really mad at me and they keep sending money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hate you so much, I'm helping you.
Yeah.
Here's a comment from Don. There's an Australian printer who Edward Dutton, really graceful and semiagog use. Ask them. I'll also ask for future reference. That would be fantastic. Yeah, I knew there was one family who went to my parish who later who's since left, but he said he basically took up book binding. So in order to be able to print out things and bind them into books, so there's options out there. But I think printing out some of these books is a little bit cost ineffective. And William Manuel, this is totally 50 Mexican bucks. This is totally not for feet pics, honestly. Well, as you said,
I did put my Bitcoin address. I did put my Bitcoin address in the chat if people really want to support the feet pic thing.
1 Bitcoin to get yourself some J Dyer fetish pics.
No, you already got it. I did it for you all.
Yeah, you guys.
But you only showed one. There's the other foot there, Jay.
Maybe that wasn't his foot.
They're still waiting for the other foot to drop.
Yeah, it wasn't his foot. Exactly.
Maybe I've got a collection over here of severed feet, and I'm actually like Dahmer or something.
Jay Dahmer.
$5 from Texas Nationalist. Thanks, Jay, for your content, and please go on World War Now. Thanks, Bud, for your amazing show, and Andy, y'all doing Christ's work. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, you just went. Did you end up going to out east with Conrad and that whole crew, Jay? I believe your name was mentioned for that.
No. I mean, I've been on World War Now at least 3 or 4 times, but no, I didn't go to Russia or anything.
30 UYU bucks from Uruguay Primero. What are the limits? What is the limit of a nationalist coalition? Are we talking like Christian nationalism? I mean, we didn't really have time to get into that. I know Andrew Wilson has been a big proponent for it. I know, Jay, some of your comments about it is I'll just paraphrase and let me know if I'm doing a good job of that. Is that it's a fine thing to talk about, but you need to have a unified Christian faith in order to have Christian nationalism. Having a bunch of different sects all running around.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work like Doug Wilson together with whoever, but probably some kind of loose coalition is possible, but I don't know. I mean, think about the Protestant confessional states. They didn't work out very well amongst themselves.
I fear that American Christian nationalism, as it would stand right now, immediately post Charlie Kirk, would call us heretical for worshiping icons.
Yeah, I think, keep in mind, Doug, even if we try to find the most coherent of the Protestants, even if that was, for the sake of argument, Doug Wilson, that's a super tiny minority. I think really Protestantism, when it's not just this, totally faking gay stuff, it's really the radical Reformation is what ended up winning out. So the world of evangelicalism and Pentecostalism and charismaticism, it is the radical Reformation. And that's just even too crazy. The Reformers thought that was too crazy to even have some kind of alliance with.
Yeah, I mean, could we ever imagine having a sort of American Symphonesia kind of issue? Something I've talked about on the show recently was the idea that I guess the hardest part for a lot of Westerners coming into the church and also sort of substantiating the church writ large is that idea of submission and asking permission, bowing down to a higher authority. into that hierarchy. A lot of dissident right and right wingers a good talk about hierarchy when it actually comes down to it. And it's a shift. When I started my catechism and having to get used to asking permission for my priest to even have the show. I'm a grown ass man. Why do I have to ask permission? So it's an adjustment. And even if you're willing to do the adjustment, it takes a little time to get used to. And I think if you're starting to try to apply that to 330 million people, it's a
humility that's not preached
ask
within Protestantism.
Right.
There's a difference between prostrating before an icon and raising your hands to a rock show.
Octavian, 1999, legendary live stream. Thank you so much. We'd love to see you all together on a regular basis. Well, send Jay some Bitcoin, or buy some books, and make the numbers happen for across the board, not just for this channel, but of course for all the people on this panel. Go buy Jim's book. I try to warn you. Of course, go subscribe to Counterflow. And now your writing's now on Substack, Buck.
Yeah, I'm not good at promoting myself, and I'm still a little bit hesitant to promote a Substack. But yes, it is on. I don't remember even the Substack. See, that's how bad I am. But if you go to dissidentmedia.net and their Substack, they feature me on there, and I will be doing one per month. The one was first on Hot Topic Christianity. I think the next will be something along the lines of, can you have a fulfilled life as a secularist? So I'm sort of thinking about that direction now.
50 PLN from Enchanted Hero. If we repent and the satanic global empire ends, do you think that the catechon can return after being absent for over 100 years? This seems to be just a dovetail into a standard question. When I was on a recent podcast talking about this, a lot of people want to know if there can be all this kind of stuff can be averted, or a way to push it back, or change some inevitable consequences. When I was talking about the vengeful son and all these other things, my short answer is maybe, but not without a massive return to prayer. Any general thoughts on that, gentlemen? Pushing things back, changing things that are already kind of in motion. As what things we talked about with changing the images of man. These plans have been set out for at least 120 years, if not longer, maybe 400 years, that are kind of coming to fruition. Can we do anything to change it in some ways?
Well, I mean, we're in a. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, Jim first.
Well, it worked. You've seen that meme with the cracked dam and wrath of God, and below it is the world, and the only thing holding it back is the prayers of 106-year-old Greek Yaya, and that's probably close to where we are. It's on the other hand, it worked for the men of Nineveh after Jonah preached, so repentance can have that effect. I don't think we can limit what God could do. I think we also have to ask is how likely is it?
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's kind of like, again, we're in a pagan period. It's a post-Christian period already, and the Roman Empire, took 300 years to convert it. But we have the internet, which can make things spread way faster than the ancient Roman Empire's texts and oral teaching could spread, right?
Yeah. Let no one fear death. I think there's this instinct that I'm still trying to get over. It's like, what's the next shitty thing that's going to happen? How do I prepare for it? And it's like, we already know the answer to that. So, I mean, also there's part of me, I guess I would say real quick, on the internet discourse stuff with the tiny hats. And I'm part of this, constantly putting out episodes on Zionism. Both of Jim and Jay have been on episodes with me doing this. I do that because I was, quote unquote, educated by Pastor Hagee as a teenager. So there's part of me that's repenting for that and putting this out there. But there's also part of me thinking like, that toothpaste is out of the tube. So I would almost caution people, like when you see these arguments keep going on Twitter, like the Jays versus the Zionists or all these things. Like maybe it's time for me to also push away from some of that discourse, because it's sort of becoming from like us trying to get the truth out there to like a mainstream distraction. Anyway, that's on my mind, so wanted to put that out there too. Almost like the Jay, what Fuentes is sort of doing against Jay at this moment. And it's like we all kind of know this at this point. Like I don't know. I don't quite understand the point of it unless there's something subversive coming up.
Well, Fuentes, friend or fed is coming, folks. So keep your eyes open for that. Any real brief thoughts on that, Jay, on Nick Fuentes' attacks, or on the whole over obsession? Let's say I wouldn't say over obsession about Zionism. I think Zionism is something to be aware of as almost the final ideology. But
let me interrupt real quick. When I saw normies reposting John Hagee, who I grew up going to, insulting him, I'm like, okay, I think maybe we're good here. Not that to put our guard down and not ever be discerning, but like I came at this the last few years, like I need to get this message out. I want to get this message out. And now I saw normie politic people like, can you believe John Hagee? And I'm like, yeah, I can believe it. I've seen it for years. So maybe that's a white pill in the sense of like, I don't have to focus on this so much. And when I see people overly focusing on it, now alarm bells going off because of the Fuentes and Jay stuff. But go ahead, Jay.
I've got good news on that front. I was invited on a very large podcast. It's one of the reasons we traveled to where we are, and we had a intense, long discussion about Christian Zionism, and it went really well. And that will drop next week. Obviously, that's not going to end John Hagee or anything like that. And it's not going to shut up Ted Cruz, but this was not the conversation I expected, and we had an awesome time. And I think it will be a powerful. Again, I'm not tooting my horn. I'm just saying that this audience, that we will be speaking to, I think this is a good thing.
Good.
There's a certain paradox that we have more than ever before in the United States, a kind of a hysterical witch hunt for hate crime, anti-Semitism, blah, 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 blah. At the same time, you can say things now you couldn't have said 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 2 years ago. Well, look, I mean, I can remember what we're just talking about Zionism as an ideology. It was like the third rail. You just couldn't do it. And now it's
can't even mention it.
It's like, the sky is blue, I mean, right. And so and I think that's part of the reason for the hysteria, why Pam Bondi is threatening people with, hate crime prosecution or, being anti-Semitic, however she wants to define it, so it's, again, I think it points to some of the brittleness in the system where the authorities want to be repressive of, things that are contrary to the narrative, and they really can't control it as much as they could before.
Having said that, my next episode's called Anti-Semitism in the Church with G.M. Davis, who wrote the book Antichrist.
Oh, really? Okay, great.
But
he's great, yeah.
He's great. It's a fantastic episode. Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on this. We should. But I think this thing with Fuentes and Jay this week started making me think like, well, I don't know. The attacks on Jay on this particular subject kind of annoy me. So maybe that's part of it.
Hey, man, if the Australian authorities burst through this door and arrest me live on a stream, I'm blaming all of you. That's all I'm saying.
I'm a little worried for you. Yeah.
Well,
boxing king.
Send your prayers and your super chats, folks. I used to talk about a bug out bag, just in case. I'll go visit Jake or Ali.
You could tell him we're not anti-Semitic. We're Semitic.
We're what? What'd you say? It cut out.
We're not anti-Semitic. We're We're not anti-Semitic. We're Uncle Semitic.
Okay, I like that. That's funny.
Never mind anti.
$2 from Fountainhead Forum. Great day for Javier Malay's party in Argentina. Talking about tiny hats. He's been connected to it. I think I've gotten through most of them here. Another $2 from Fountainhead. Great. Oh, sorry, that's the same thing. I think I've gotten through most of them, if not all. If I've missed any, I'm sorry, folks, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much. Any closing thoughts or last words? Let the people know where to find you, of course, and what to buy and where to consume your work in general. And we'll close around.
Who goes first, Jason? You're the director.
Buck, we'll go alphabetical. Buck.
Okay. I would just first say thanks to Jay Dyer and Jim Jatras, two guys I look up to very much and have had the pleasure of meeting in person. For those listening, they're nicer even than they seem on the internet. So I'm honored to be on a panel with both of them, and of course my good friend Jason. The show is called Counterflow Podcast with Buck Johnson, counterflowpodcast.com. Again, let's stop talking about Zionism. So my next episode is called Anti-Semitism and the Church with GM Davis.
The last time he's going to talk about it, though, folks. It's the last time.
That's really the last time for the next week. I will talk about this. Right. Again, I'm bitter. I went to John Hagee's church. This is a wound I need healing on. And yeah, that's all I got. I'm not important in the grand scheme here.
Mr. Jay Dyer.
Yeah, you can find my work at jaysanalysis.com. That's all the archive material and interviews for the last 10 years, including all the Tragedy and Hope lectures, including all the spicier content that I couldn't openly talk about because of my rank cowardice the last 10 years. So you can find all my cowardice behind the paywall at jaysanalysis.com. You can also subscribe to me on YouTube. You can find me on X. STARK Hollywood 3 is available tomorrow. So I'm going to ship it out starting tomorrow. Supposed to get all those copies, and 3's unique. They all stand alone. They all deal with very different subjects. They're kind of all different flavors of analysis. But I think it's timely. It's pretty much the end of Hollywood. Hollywood's kind of dying. It served its purpose for propaganda and social toxification. You can check out on X the multiple InfoWars interviews that we did. Basically did 3 1-hour segments on different topics. That's on my X as well. And you can look for next week. That big interview will be dropping, dealing with Christian Zionism and other topics. And then our conference is November 20th and 21st. Then we have a horror convention film analysis right before Hollywood, right before Halloween, November 30th. In Tampa. You can find that on my website as well. I'm sorry, my mind is mush. We drove 16 hours, so I feel like a zombie. I'm just rambling.
So if we calculate 16 hours from South Florida, we can figure out whose show you were on.
Well, you can tell I was in Texas. So
were you really? Okay.
Well, Alex is Texas, but I mean, we drove 8 hours a day, 8 hours today, 8 hours a day before. So
Well, damn.
Good. Figure out if you can figure out who's in Texas. It's not Joe Rogan.
It's not.
No.
Oh, okay. We all got very excited for a second. Buck and I we're getting excited with this.
No.
It's going to happen.
Think other Texas people.
I don't remember. I can't even think anymore.
We'll find out next week. Come on.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll get louder.
The good news is that there will hopefully be more. He was very pleased with the conversation, and he would like to do more of these conversations.
Great,
Mr. Jim Jatras. Final thoughts. Let the people know.
Yeah. Wait. What do you mean final thoughts? The doctor said I had 6 more months. Okay.
It's later than you think, Jim.
It's later than I thought. I tried to warn you. At Jim Jatras on X. That's my primary platform. It's still my own platform, only platform of my own. Other than that, I got nothing.
folks, thank you so much. We did hit that goal, so I will do an after show. Keep your eyes open for that, just to get a little bit of a break, and I'll come back on, probably do some power washing, and we'll chat with the folks, fine folks. If you bought your membership, we'll put it over on a member stream. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I think we almost broke 4,000 subs already, so finally, after a year of tumultuous year of setbacks and all the rest of it, we're back on track. And thank you to all the people who've stayed with us all this time. We'll be back next week. The plan is to be back next week to make this panel show a weekly show with different guests. So keep an eye out for that, and follow me on X to get notifications about that. And thank you again, all gentlemen. If you just want to stick around for a second, I'll just do the outro, and we'll talk again for briefly. Thanks again, folks. I am Jason Mironchuck, and it's later than you think.